11 years. He has earned the Distinguished Toastmaster Award 3 times and will soon complete a 4th DTM award. Even after all these years and awards later, he is still excited about what Toastmasters has to offer. Today, he will be doing a special speech. It is the Icebreaker. Presenting the Pathways Icebreaker, please welcome Hugh Wynn.
I was conceived 8 years ago. Some people got together and there was an orgy of ideas. But I wasn't born right away. It took 7 long years of labor before I was born. Then last year, I was finally born in California. And since then, I've been traveling all over the world. My name is Pathways. I am the new education system in Toastmasters. And I have someone who knows about me very well. He is your Pathways ambassador, and his name is Hugh Wynn. Let's give Hugh Wynn a hand. Yay. Yay. Fellow Toastmasters, I'm excited about Pathways. It's the new education system, and I'll tell you how it goes. I just met Janet here, and I heard that she's not a member yet. Is that right?
Correct.
So Janet, would you mind if I use you as an example?
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's welcome Janet.
All right.
So after a while, Janet wants to join the club, and she gets started in Pathways. So what happens is that you will get the materials online.
Okay.
And then you review your materials, and then you get ready for your first speech, and you schedule your first speech.
Okay.
Then you get up here, and you look at the audience, and you give something called the icebreaker. You give your icebreaker speech to the audience. And after that, you get done, and you sit down.
Okay. Or do you want me to do the icebreaker, or you want me to sit down?
Ready.
Wow, we have someone who's ready to give an icebreaker right now. So that hasn't changed in Toastmasters. We have a new member join Toastmasters, get signed up for Pathways, does the first speech, the icebreaker. That hasn't changed. What also hasn't changed is that the icebreaker gets evaluated. Joe right now has the official evaluation form for the Pathways icebreaker. It has lots of detail. It's actually 3 pages, right, of evaluation, if you look at it, Joe.
Yep.
It's a standardized format for all evaluations. The form's the same, just some of the questions may be different. But it helps to have a standard evaluation because one evaluator might evaluate different from another, from someone else. So what Pathways concentrates on is evaluation. So our new member comes back up for the second speech. Yay! So we have a new member giving her second speech. This speech could be about whatever Janet wants to talk about. It could be your hobbies, it could be about your family, it could be about work, a trip somewhere. So you give whatever you want to the audience. You can use vocal variety, big hand gestures, or small voice, tone changes. Just stand right here. That's fine. You can do whatever you want for your second speech. And then you get done, and you get another evaluation. Yeah.
I know, right?
Ready for it?
And after that evaluation, you come back for another speech. You can sit down. So Janet will give another speech based on the feedback from her speech that she just gave. Her speech about anything. She will get an evaluation with feedback on it, and Janet will come again on another meeting and give another speech. It could be the same speech with the feedback, Or it could be a new speech which incorporates some of the comments from the evaluator. So Pathways focuses on evaluation. And the last part of that is that after she gives those 3 speeches, the icebreaker, the second speech, and then the improved speech, she comes back up here, and actually no, she watches someone give a speech, and then comes up here and gives an evaluation. So after 3 speeches, Janet will be an evaluator in Toastmasters. Isn't that exciting? Yeah. So we want to make sure that Janet is involved in evaluations right away, that we involve all new members in evaluations, because that is the core, that's the heart of Toastmasters, is getting feedback, improving yourself, right? We're here to improve yourself, and the only way to do it is to use feedback you get to become better. So that's what Pathways concentrates on. Something else Pathways concentrates on is mentorship. One of the next speeches in Toastmasters is that Janet will come back up here for her 7th speech or so, and she'll give a speech about how you were mentored. Something happened in the past, maybe it was at work or something at school, that someone helped you to do the project or to do whatever. Someone was a mentor to you, and you were going to talk about that experience in that speech. And if you are so inclined, after you do that speech, you can go into the Pathways mentor program and become a Pathways mentor yourself. So Pathways also concentrates on mentorship, because we don't believe in just throwing you up here. We believe in helping you, helping the new member. We want to help Janet out, right? Mm-hmm. So that's what Pathways is all about. We give you lots of resources. Pathways has lots of materials online. You will get your initial materials once you sign up online. And if you don't want to get the materials online, you can download the form, print it out. You can order print manuals. There's lots of flexibility, so you're not bogged down by anything. If you don't want to deal with online materials, it's okay. You can always ask the club, someone else, to print the materials for you, or someone else to order materials for you if you don't have an internet connection. I don't know who doesn't have an internet connection, but if that's the case, we can have someone else help you. One of the great things about Pathways is you get instant feedback. When you join Toastmasters, right now you get a manual with 10 speeches, and after you finish the manual, you get a Competent Communicator Award. In Pathways, by the time you finish level 1, level 2, and level 3 in Pathways. So there's much more recognition in Pathways. You can also have other members give you badges and lots of other recognition. I don't know what you want to do with the badges. Maybe print it out and wear it. I don't know. But you get to give each other recognition in Pathways. This is exactly what we do in Pathways. And he is your Pathways guide. So please welcome your Pathways guide, Jeff.
Oh, change. For you, it's not change, it's the way. But for everyone else, it's change. Toastmasters for 95 years has been doing it exactly the same way. You have a manual, you do a bunch of speeches, and you get some sweet letters in your name badge. Pathways has changed that. You're aimless in our way now, it seems. I joined Toastmasters to become a public speaker, but I have had no specific training in being a public speaker. Some people join Toastmasters to become better salespeople, but there's no specific training to be a better salesperson. Whereas Pathways is changing that. You start out in Pathways by taking a little quiz. It's not hard. You didn't have to study for it. It's something you just have to think about. And when the quiz is finished, it says, here's 3 options for you. Here's 3 ways to go. Here's 3 goals for you to make. And those goals are at the top of the path. We begin at the bottom of the path. Everyone begins the same with the icebreaker. Then there's a few speeches where you're learning different techniques, like evaluating, like vocal variety, depending on your need and depending on how your quiz went. Very specific speeches are put together for your path, and they suggest you do all those. It's free. You don't have to pay for it, unless you want actual books, in which case you can spend $25 and have a stack of books. Unnecessary at this point, because it's all done online. And that's the big change in Pathways. That's the huge change, is that we are pushing for a more online variety of Toastmasters. We're never going to change the actual meetings. These exist just as they are. We have to have humans. You can't do a speech in front of a computer because it's way different than live people, as you know. Mr. Competitor Winner guy. We're going against each other, by the way.
Oh, wow.
There's a need for a live audience, and we'll always have that. There's a need for camaraderie and humans, and we'll always have that. But there's actual online meetings. Has anyone tried one of those yet? I have, and they are amazing. There's a group of people on screen, and whoever's speaking is the biggest one, and then whoever's not speaking are listed smaller. When you're speaking, you see all their faces. Really interesting. The meetings I've gone to, there's been people from Australia, from Peru, from England, from Germany, all doing Toastmasters just exactly like we do now. And that's sort of the push here, is to get you to go onto the Toastmasters International website. If you haven't been on there, you need to figure out how to get there. Because on the Toastmasters International website is a thing called Basecamp. And Basecamp is the place where all of your information is stored. And Basecamp will have your path, your next goal, your past goals, your badges. And the neat thing about the evaluation forms is when your evaluator is finished with them, they give them to you. You then scan them and pop them into your Basecamp list. Now your speech includes the evaluation forms just as before, like it used to be in your book. But now it's online as well, so you can look at it anywhere you are. If you're thinking, what did I do in that speech? You can pop it up on your phone even, and read about your evaluation from that speech and know where you're at and what you want to try to work on to be better at it. Sounds good, right, so far? Doesn't seem so hard? Are we wigging out yet? You don't have to worry, because this is how it'll be. It will keep you organized, and it gives everyone in the club equal footing. Now, Joe's been in a long time, and Hugh's been in a long time, I've been in a long time, Janet has not. But when Janet starts Pathways, she will start it just like we start Pathways. I have the same footing. I start with an icebreaker, and I move through the steps and levels just like Janet will be doing. And therefore, it kind of levels us out for once, for a minute. Even though I have more experience, you also have more power because you're just like me. We're just the same, working our way up our ladders and seeing how we get. And to be DTM, you only have to take 2 paths and then a few other projects, and boom, you get your DTM. And it's fun, it's different, it's interesting, and it's more specific. Because when you finish your path, you now have a specific skill set of things to know to be that public speaker, that professional salesman, that interpersonal communicator. One of the options is, I'm shy and I want to speak to people. And that's the concept, is why are you in Toastmasters? That's the big question that Pathways is asking. What are you doing here? Why are you here? What do you want? And what you want is what you get, and you will get exactly what you ask for, which is awesome. You get to learn this path and become one with it. Who's VPE? Do we have him here or Stuart here?
Vice President Education, yeah.
Vice President of Education? President? Vice?
For
Okay, I'll give you this. This is the Pathways Rollout Kit Welcome Guide. It has nifty prizes. In here is 3 Pathways pins that you get for the first 3 people to sign up with for Pathways. I see Janet getting one of these things. Also in here, if you want to hand these out, is a information sheet that's helpful, along with some other stuff, and there's a thumb drive in there with mysteries on it that you'll have to explore later. It has, I think, the PowerPoint program and some connections and lists of places to go to learn things. But Pathways is not to be feared. It's not a change so much as it's an alteration of what we're doing now in a better way, a more organized fashion. Because right now it's a little chaotic. You can pick a book, you can do a speech randomly and then find the speech in the book somewhere. And that's okay because it's fun. But in reality, you need to be focused. You need to have a reason to be doing all this Toastmastering, to go this way, to go that way, to practice my hand gestures, because when you're taking the quiz, which the quiz is simple. It begins with a few very specific questions, and then the questions are based on strongly agree versus strongly disagree. You know what I mean? Like there's layers. Do you, when you're speaking to people, look them right in the eye? Well, not much. When you're speaking on stage, do you know what to do with your hands? Well, yes, I do. And therefore, you don't necessarily need to work on hand gestures so much. They give you speeches that work on eye contact or work on vocal variety. You see what I'm saying? So it's more to help you figure your way through this whole thing and give you very specific help. As a new person, you may not know what you do in front of a group of people. Therefore, you can type unsure, and then you'll find out. And they'll put speeches together for that. It's going to be fun. It's going to work. And it's been done already around the world. We're the last group, the last region, Region 8, is the last people on the planet to get this. And we're just starting, and May 15th is when it kicks off. That's when you'll have your first opportunity to sign up for it. As a new Toastmaster, you might want to wait a minute. You don't need your books right away. You'll get them anyway, but you won't need them because you'll probably want to just get into the pathways and work your way through it. Then you can become the mentor for this club as to how Pathways works. Even as a new person, you'll have the advantage over the guys that have been doing it forever because we're not ready for change. We don't want to. We like the old way. Not really. It's okay. But bear with us. It will take a little bit of time to develop how this all works. It's been running for a long time. All the questions have been asked. There's a massive FAQ that you'll get when you begin. It has 1,200 or 1,500 questions on it. It's 300 pages long, full of things that people have already thought of. Well, what about this? And what about that? And things I wouldn't even question, what? But when you read it, you find that people have already asked all these questions. So the answers are available through me, for sure, through you guys on the website in the long run. My job as guide will be to be available to you whenever you need to ask questions. Now, I work during the day, so I may not talk to you during the day, but in the evenings I'm certainly available. And I'll be setting up a weekly webinar where I'll be available for an hour or so that you can check in and just say, hey Jeff, what about this? And I'll be able to answer your questions for you there. And that way you guys are never in the dark, you're never losing your path. Your guide is here to keep you focused. And what we'll do now is open the...
Yeah, I have a question.
Oh, yes.
Can I go up there so that I can answer questions right now?
You come on up.
All right.
This is our Q&A section. If you guys have questions, between you and I, we make up the answers and you'll never know the difference.
Try to stop us. I want you to stop us. Yes.
I have a question.
Okay.
Why was this district the last one to?
They picked
run this?
a number out of a hat.
Is that how it goes? It was just kind of a lottery on who?
It was
gonna do
random.
What?
It was random.
And because we're the awesomest and they want it all fixed for when it gets to us.
I thought it was because they knew Doug was here and they thought it'd be it's stuff.
Yeah. We're saving the best for last.
So you can't do the survey until the 15th, is that what you're
Right,
saying?
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And in terms of the survey, you can do it and
Right.
make recommendations, or you can totally ignore it. And for example, this speech is a pathway speech I'm doing right now. It is the icebreaker, because I believe this is the icebreaker that I'm doing. And I am going to get credit for it, and I have chosen my path as the dynamic leadership path. I've already made up my mind of what path I want to do. But I can't do it yet, because Pathways isn't here yet.
You know, it's funny here that I picked the exact same path as the dynamic leadership path
Oh.
when I did my quiz. So
Oh, okay.
So we'll be competing one day.
One day.
We'll both be dynamic leaders,
That's
right,
right.
Jeff? Yeah. Yeah, question?
Oh, just wanted to add that one thing that I know is that the icebreaker in its entirety is available online.
That is available right now, correct?
So if you want to jump in and look at that,
Yeah.
you're more than welcome to.
Have you been on the Toastmasters International website, the big one?
I have been.
Okay. Get used to getting on that on a regular basis, just like your club one. You'll want to be also, they'll be equal, because you'll need to go on there. And every time you finish a speech, you go on afterwards and you tick the box that says, I did that speech. Your Vice President of Education will verify that check mark, and then it's logged in. In the old days, the VPE used to have to fill out the paper in the back, and then they'd have to type in all the speeches and the dates and the name of the speech and what is the writing on this, what do you mean by that? Now it's already done. As soon as you get done and get home, you hit a button and it's finished. And then when you reach your first level, which is quick, what they've done is taken away this long span between getting an advancement and shortened it. They've taken all of the skill sets, the things you're learning, and broken them into smaller skill sets. Instead of 68 right now, there's 300 in Pathways. In other words, the bigger pieces are brought smaller, easier to chew, easier to swallow, for your safety.
Yeah. Like Janet just went through level 1 right here this morning.
Just about, yeah.
Yeah.
Three speeches.
She actually gave the speeches I talked about. She just finished level 1 this morning.
More questions?
We will all start at the beginning when we sign
Yes.
up for this.
Yes.
Break, the icebreaker, choose our path. How many paths are there?
There are 10 paths.
10.
right now.
10 paths that are available. Okay.
10 goals, let's say. It's not the same path for each goal, but they're very similar
Okay.
in that they're really tailored to you. It's very specific in the way they want you to follow.
If you want examples of names like dynamic leadership, team collaboration, innovative planning, presentation mastery. So there are different ways you can do it, but it concentrates on the core of Toastmasters. It's still about public speaking, and there is leadership involved because you are a leader. Organizing a meeting, it takes a lot of leadership, so leadership is involved.
So when you pick that pathway, there's already a standard of what type of speeches are going to be there. As you mentioned, potentially looking at hand
Yeah.
gestures
Right.
or looking into the eyes of the audience. So
Right.
of those are already predetermined in there.
Well, the specific speeches about hand gestures and vocal variety, they're already going to be incorporated into the projects. So you're not looking for them specifically in a speech,
Right.
but you are looking for them in each speech, which is what you should be doing anyway. You're looking at everything all at once.
For those that have working towards goals,
Yes.
how much time do they have to complete them as part of the old system?
Till 2020.
June 30th, 2020. June 30th,
So-
because that's the end of the Toastmasters year.
If you're like me and you're close to DTM,
Right.
carry on. Go ahead and finish your DTM. If you're finishing your CC manual, go ahead and finish that. Might as well. Get that done and out of the way. And then you can make the decision, do I have enough time to keep going, or should I just jump in and start Pathways and begin again? And it's not begin again, it's just carry on in a different direction.
And you can do both at the same time. Right?
Yes.
You can.
Yeah.
And if you have no goals, then you're good.
Then-
Yeah.
That's
If
the
you
way
don't
it
make
is.
goals, you're safer, because if you never reach them, you're never disappointed. Right?
So, should loyal, Mr. Doggy.
With the competition coming up, does the new pathways change the competitions in Toastmasters?
Oh, the speech contest. They are being changed in other ways, not related to Pathways. The speech contests are something separate. It's not a part of Pathways.
But they are changing. They're reducing the number of speeches being done to international, I think, only.
There'll be another. You'll be hearing more about the speeches,
Right.
speech contest later on.
But there will still be competitions, thank goodness, right?
Yes. Yeah. Still ways to get those trophies, right?
Gotta have more. Fill that box up, I guess.
But you do have to declare a path, correct?
Yes.
The only way you'll get access online is to choose a path.
Choose a
The first path you get is free. So if you are a member right now, you get a free path. And actually, if Janet joins right now before Pathways, she'll get the materials that everyone gets right now, and she'll get access to a free path. So I don't know if you want to get everything.
The books are still handy. They do have a lot of good information in them for the two manuals you get right away. The second one, the Competent Leader Manual, has a lot about all the jobs that are done in Toastmasters, all the how to do timer and how to do grammarian and what they're all about. The Competent Communicator has 10 speeches that has a lot of information on how to do different aspects of speaking. So if you join today, you will get those first two manuals, but then you'll already be ready to jump into Pathways, which I would recommend for you because you're new. It's easier for you. You won't have to learn the old way and then unlearn it and learn the new way.
Well, if you want to do both,
Well,
that's up to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, your choice.
Yeah.
Feel
That's the
up
thing
to
about
challenge.
pathways is that it's not forced on you to do any particular thing. You have choices.
Right.
So will the cost be different?
No.
You pay your local membership fees?
Your Toastmasters International fee is still $20 or whatever it is, and that goes towards your paths, basically. And
It's whatever dues you pay right now to the club and to international.
that stays the same.
But you save money because of the manual printing.
Because you don't, right, once you finish CC, you don't have to buy any manuals. They're already there. And none of them need to be printed unless you want to. And you can print them on your own printer, or you can pay and have them ship you printed copies of them. The ones that suffer most will be the prisoners, the guys in prison in the gavel clubs, because they're not going to have internet access, and therefore they're going to have to pay for books in a way, but they're working on a way to get them fixed up and into the program. Toastmasters doesn't want to exclude anyone, we want to keep them all together.
Yeah. Joe, are you still a member of 2 clubs? Or?
No, not any longer. I was up to 5 now.
Oh, 5, wow.
I thought I was bad with 4, that's good.
The only reason why I bring up is if you're a member of more than 1 club, if you're a member of 2 clubs, you can get 2 free passes at the beginning.
Oh,
That's the only reason I mentioned that. But yeah, after your first pass, you have to pay for additional pass.
But they're only $20, so.
So $20 for all the access to
So it's
information.
similar to buying the books if you were gonna move on to a different.
Yeah, something
If
like
you're working for DTM, you'll need to do 2 paths, so you'll have to spend the extra $20, unless you're in 2 clubs, in which case you get 2, but you're then paying dues in 2 clubs. So yeah, in
Either way.
one way or another, you're paying for the next
Yeah.
path.
Mhm.
But
We're
this- I'm sorry.
Yeah, we're just talking about $20, compared to everything else.
This kind of solves a problem too with a lot of people joining Toastmasters. They join and they have a goal, but it's just general the way we handle it. Or have
Yes.
handled it. Now at least they have a specific goal they can address and deal with that and keep their
That is
interest
exactly
going.
correct, because that's the whole point of it, is to give you a reason to be here in Toastmasters. There's got to be a reason for doing this. You joined for something, not just because, oh, well, I'm bored on Thursday, I'll just join this club. It's for a goal. And when you realize that they are teaching you the whole path to get to that goal, by the time you reach it and get the DTM level, you have some seriously solid skills.
That was the one thing that I mentioned to you. I visited a couple of different clubs, and one of the things that I've noticed is I see everybody giving speeches, but I never see anybody teaching the skills and things like that. And so I think this new program is wonderful if it's going to be teaching you all the different skills that you really need to be a public speaker or.
Yes. And you'll be able to read about all of your speeches and all of what you're supposed to be looking for in the long run. And by reading through it, then you realize, okay, I've got to start now working on this because it's a weak spot. And by evaluating early, by learning to evaluate, it kind of forces people who don't like to evaluate, participate in the meeting in a different way than just be the timer every week. And by evaluating, I find that being the evaluator, is as valuable as being evaluated, because you're listening very intently and watching for things. Now, do I do that? I never realized I did that. I think I do that. I don't like it. And you become stronger. By evaluating early, you're now very focused on watching every speaker and what they're doing, and how come that guy's so good, and how come that guy is just, why can't I understand what he's saying? And that makes a difference, a huge difference.
I'll be curious what Joe's evaluation of me. Oh yeah, actually, this is a regular meeting, right? We can have Joe come up and evaluate my icebreaker, right?
For sure.
Yeah, after we finish, we can have that.
I do have a question. In the evaluations, and there's a specific sheet laid out for that. Very often we all give our own sandwich method as we sit around with speeches done
Right.
by the single evaluator. Would you be able to use this for everybody in the room
Yes,
to provide?
the reason that they're standardizing that is so that when you scan it into the computer, it's there. Plus, it also focuses the evaluator on very specific questions that many people don't use in the back of the book. I remember evaluating a lot of times and never even reading that section, filling it out kind of at the end. Using this gives you a specific way of evaluating what he was doing. In other words, as he's speaking, there's questions on there. Did he use vocal variety? Did he use his hand gestures? Did he move from his spot? These kind of things. So that way, when he scans this and puts it in the computer, he can look back on all of them. Did he use hand gestures? He was at a 1 before. Now he's at a 2. Now he's at a 3. Now he's at a 4. And pretty soon he'll make 5.
Yes.
And you can see, you can track your progress because of the form. It makes it easier to see exactly, because when he circles things on there, you now have like a very specific thing you're looking at. In other words, I can see that I did improve in this, or I've always been good at that and never be good at this. What the heck? I gotta fix that part. See what I'm saying?
Sure. Well, I can see if you had 10 evaluators for the same speech, if you would have used that form.
That would
If
be,
you can find the consistency in there, because
Yes.
everybody's got a different opinion of what
Everybody.
they're looking for and why and how.
Mhm.
I mean, there's gonna be a lot of information there, but that could also be very helpful.
It's a good
Yeah.
idea.
If they choose to do it that way. Instead of writing on the little paper that, oh, you were great, you know, try
You
to
were
look
great,
away
yeah.
from the podium, good job, you know, a little pat on the finger, we'll see you next
right,
time.
yeah. Very funny, nice job.
Yeah.
But this you scan in and you put it with your speech, and then you can track it all, which is really nice.
You have to scan it in.
Yeah.
You have to.
Well, you don't have to. No, if you don't want to,
I
don't
wanna scan
bother.
it in,
Nah, don't bother. You shouldn't.
Yeah, you can scan in your evaluations online, but you don't have to. It's just for you. Pathways gives you an option to scan materials. So actually, if I knew Joe was evaluating me today, I could have downloaded material and I could have emailed Joe my evaluation sheet, and he could have brought his laptop and typed in his evaluation during the meeting, if that's what he wanted to do. That's what Pathways gives you.
Good idea.
In places with internet access, you'll be able to do that, specifically right at the meeting. Just like your VPE at the end can check all the boxes that you did your speech, you finish that and work that way.
Or Joe is doing old school method, just write on a sheet of paper. So
It's not looking
it
good.
changes and stays the same. Oh man.
In case you lose the power, I can still complete my
Yeah.
project, yeah.
So we're talking about changing and staying the same. Pathways changes things, but things are still staying the same. You can have both.
Right? Everybody feel better now about Pathways? Not so very?
Excited to sign up. I know Janet is excited.
Ready?
Right? Yeah. So
Any other questions? Madam Toastmaster, it's all yours.
What do you do now?